And one thing, I promise I'll introduce myself. I hope that's okay. And one thing I like to do on these calls is to get an idea of Borderless community. So if you don't mind, please use the comment section to let us know where you're dialing in from. So city, country, it's up to you. So please let us know because it just gives an idea of where people are across the world since this session fully remote. Well, myself, I am in okay. I tend to kind of rate by continent. So right, I think we are 3 continents so far. I'm curious to see if we'll reach 4. So I think we reached 5. Oh, well, we've reached 4 continents. Dubai is in there, so fantastic. We have Virginia, we have Dakar. Okay. So the AAA community, the Borderless community is spread across, which is very nice. Oh, we have Mauritius, we have Poland. Let me see, what else do we have here? Manchester, Texas. Lincoln. I don't know what that is. It's Erfurt, Germany, London, of course. So I'm sure we can all agree that call it the diaspora, the friends of the diaspora, the borderless communities spread across the world, which is always something that it's always good to start with that. For folks who don't know me, my name is Joe Kinvi. I am one of the co-founders and CEO of Borderless, and Borderless is an investment technology that enables anybody, or at least folks from the diaspora, to invest across multiple asset classes. Today's session, instead of me telling you what I'm about, today's session is we want to speak about. Am I with you? Okay, I'm with you. All right. We want to speak about how to get started in angel investing in Africa. And for many people who might not know, we have been working with Fiona's team or the African Angel Academy for less than a year, but our relationship goes way, way, way back. Just for context, this time last year, we hosted an event together in Nairobi, and the idea is to essentially bring borderless folks, bring the folks who are interested in angel investing across the continent. The reason why we thought it was really important to kick off this relationship is because we're really good at a couple of things, but one thing that we're probably not the best at is education. And today we will essentially break the session into 2 parts. So Fiona and I, who I'll give her the opportunity to introduce herself very shortly. Fiona and I will essentially talk about angel investing on the continent. And then on the second part, we'll invite 3 individuals who will talk about their experience taking the AAA course over the past many years. I think we have quite a wide-ranging number of cohorts, and we'll hear from them directly because I think it really helps to, hear from people who have done the thing, instead of Fiona and I just being here rambling, telling you all about the stuff that we do. All right, so to get it started, Fiona, I will maybe allow you to introduce yourself and then we can get into it. Does that work for everyone? Please just give me thumbs up, let me know. Am I missing something? We're good? All right, fantastic. So whoever is in charge of the slides, if you can take the slides down, and then feel free to pin Fiona and I, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. Like you said, this has been a long time coming, and I remember the Nairobi Ecosystem Sherehe last year, a couple of other events in the ecosystem. I know HoaQ is definitely famous for a lot of the mixes in Nairobi. I know that's the other organization you're affiliated with as well, and you founded. And also way back when to the ABAN Congress, and it's so beautiful and encouraging, and just to see that, the shared objective that we have to ensure that angel investors, not only in Africa but also in the diaspora, are enjoying a structured way to be able to learn and deploy capital in the move for Africa to fund Africa, is what has brought us together and continues in building our partnership and engagements moving forward. For those who haven't met me before, Fiona Kiruja, I'm the CEO of the African Angel Academy, and one way to describe the African Angel Academy in brief is we are in the business of mobilizing local capital across the continent through structured learning, skill sets, and also ensuring that you're not paying the expensive school fees of losing your money before understanding how to really navigate the landscape that is the African angel the African angel investing ecosystem. And I'm excited to dive in and see what this yields. Also excited to see quite a few alumni. Hi, Bunmi. Hi, Nzube. I'm really excited to dive in and hopefully get more of you understanding how to navigate.
Fantastic. I intentionally skipped my bio because I want to start with how we started with angel investing. So it was in the middle of COVID. Myself and my co-founder, Nzube, somehow he convinced me that we should start investing in Africa. I was like, maybe not. And his argument was we should do it for the sake of learning. And personally, I've been a big advocate of learning. So reluctantly, I said yes. And so that's how we started our syndicate. We reached out to a bunch of friends that we knew. It also really helped that Nzube and I, we ran a professional community in Ireland before. So all these things happened in Ireland 6 years ago in the thick of COVID. So we had quite a wide network to reach out to. And also at the same time, I was trying to go to London to take the angel investing course by a guy called Andy Ayim. But because of COVID, I actually couldn't go and take this course. So we're somehow forced to start this, call it syndicate, collective, without the adequate learning that we probably thought we needed, because we actually wanted to go take the course. But again, this was 2019, 2020. Everything was still in person, and I was relatively committed to fly to London, a couple of times throughout the year to take the course. But because of COVID, I wasn't able to go and take the course. So we managed to pull some capital together. And again, I've seen a couple of HoaQ members here. The first two deals that we did were very, very small. It was two $10,000 deal. And that was the first investment. It was about 17 people. And we were able to invest $20,000 into companies. For us, it was the cost to pay to learn about this new asset class. To date, HoaQ as a collective has invested in over 100 companies, deployed over $4 million. And we've seen a lot of highs and lows. And one thing I wanted to add in terms of the highs and lows is we definitely paid the cost to learn, because we have lost money, and it's just part of the journey as you're doing angel investment. But again, it doesn't have to be like that for everybody else, and that's essentially the reason why we're here. So what I've been working on over the past 3 years stems from the challenges that we encountered through starting, running, and scaling this syndicate, and that gave birth to Borderless. Which one thing that we learned was, the challenge wasn't actually pulling the money because we had a network. The challenge wasn't, finding the deals, because same thing, we had a network. But the challenge was, you have the money now. How do you go about deploying this capital when you have folks spread across the world? We've had situations where we couldn't even open a bank account because the bank couldn't understand that you had 17 people. At this stage, I think we had people from 3 countries, UK, the US, and Ireland, who wanted to pull capital together. So our issue, or at least our challenge back then, wasn't a lack of money, because we had money. We're all professionals. We worked across tech companies in Dublin, and we realized that the issue was infrastructure. So 3 years ago, I essentially, myself and Nzube, we decided to build an infrastructure for the much wider diaspora of about 42 million people. And we wanted to make it very, very easy for the diaspora to invest across multiple asset classes. And angel investment is one of the asset classes that we essentially enable. The reason why I really, really wanted to have this conversation with Fiona is I want to talk about, like, there's another side to it. Yeah, so the side that we went through, which was expensive, so one way or the other we had to pay the cost, is actually go through the course, right? So Fiona, I'm going to bring it back to you. Is if somebody was starting today, like, do they have to go through the angel investing journey the way we did, or are there other options such as taking the course? So I'm going to send it back to you.
Thanks, Joe. There's definitely multiple ways to go about it, and the route you did take was quite brave, and that's why we're here today, right? That's why HoaQ and Borderless is here today. But there's multiple ways to definitely go about it, and within the academy itself, and maybe just to share a bit of backstory with regards to the academy and how we started, right? We started back in 2020. This is our 6th year. We're celebrating 6 years on. And over the past 6 years, 5 years rather, we've managed to train over 900 angel investors across the continent, over 26 plus angel networks, some of which have been formed from the AAA cohort programs. Our alumni spread across 33 plus African countries, including the diaspora, the US, the UK, Germany, and other diaspora countries. We have also, run 13 cohort programs. Primarily, we were offering mostly cohort programs because that created an avenue to advocate for peer learning and also move together as a group in understanding the mechanics and fundamentals of angel investing. Since then, 6 years on, we've now expanded that scope, and this is what Joe was referring to, is in addition to participating in a cohort program kind of setting, you're also able to just easy as picking an item off the menu, go over to the AAA website using the Borderless link and subscribing to any course and learning at your own pace. So you don't really have to feel the pressure of trying to fit into what criteria there is when joining cohort programs, feeling the brunt of the busy schedule and squeezing it into what is required. Though we do advocate for the cohort learning, as we've seen it's really yielded great relationships, and angel investing, as Joe will tell you also, is quite a relationship driven kind of engagement when you're forming syndicates, when you're forming angel networks, angel groups. It's all about the relationships and knowing who you're investing with. So there is that availability, and if you feel a bit spirited, you can also categorize yourself depending on where you see yourself in your journey, either as a beginner, as an intermediate learner, or with some experience, you've deployed capital, learned school, paid the hard school fees of possibly losing some money, and see yourself as an advanced angel investor, dive into the bundles that you can take part. And all this is available within the Borderless Learn platform. So one thing that we also saw within the academy is that we are very good at ensuring that there is the structured learning and pathways to enable everyone to understand the fundamentals and mechanics around it. And gladly, most of our alumni have managed to deploy over $7.2 million in the past 5 years, but we needed to take that a notch higher. We needed to ensure that our alumni in the diaspora, more angel investors in the diaspora, within the continent, are able to collectively move together, invest together, and Borderless does such a beautiful job at ensuring that is possible. And this partnership is definitely one that we're really excited about.
Thank you, Fiona. And we'll talk about the partnership a little bit later in terms of how it works. But one thing that kind of stopped me in my tracks is you talked about the self-paced learning and then the cohort learning. What are the key differences? And for somebody who's thinking about learning angel investing across the continent, what should guide their decisions, whether they should go with self-paced or they should go with a cohort option?
Right. So recently we introduced the self-sponsored cohort learning, where angel investors are able to put the money where the mouth is, invest in their development, in understanding the fundamentals and leading towards actively investing at the end of the cohort. What differentiates the self-paced learning versus the cohort learning is the cohort programs are structured in a 12 to 14-week format, where every week you're able to move together, post an onboarding session. You're able to cover some modules, engage in group assignments, and get the support you required, understand the fundamentals around deal sourcing, actively participate in engagements to deal source. And the cohort programs are structured with 3 objectives. And that is to ensure, one, you're understanding in a group setting and moving together with your peers in understanding what the fundamentals and mechanics of angel investing are. You're also able to, be built with a skill set that you require in terms of how do you get to understand your investment thesis, for example, as an individual angel investor, your risk appetite, how do you decide or structure your deal, how do you even get to know what a term sheet is? Let's start there. Some terminologies in the investing ecosystem can definitely be quite daunting, and if for new angel investors who just hear it and don't know much about the practicalities of it, it can scare you away. But when you actually do go through the cohort program with your peers, you're able to share and understand, and they're all coupled with the live sessions from great angel investors like our founding team, Stephen Gugu, Alexander Fraser, David Van Dyke. We have great patrons like Joe as well, Steve Tawia, and many others, and our alumni as well, who come through to share their knowledge and their expertise. With the self-paced learning, it's really taking your time, saying that, okay, this is the gap that I've seen I have. I do not understand due diligence, for instance, and there's a deal on the table. I would like to participate in it. I have some money to deploy, but I don't understand how to go about it. So you could fill in a particular need, a singular need, without having to go through the full 14-week program. Or you could say that I do have 4 needs, for instance, and choose a bundle and learn at your own pace. Really take your time. And the fun thing is, once you do purchase a module off of the AAA platform as a standalone module or a bundle, you do have lifetime access, and you enjoy discounts when we do release new courses and new content, and you're part of the wider AAA community. So that's the key difference, and it has no geographical focus. You can learn from anywhere, even on your phone, because we do have the app as well, and you can enjoy listening to module on due diligence as you're working out in the gym or taking a walk.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I don't know if I want to be listening to due diligence while I'm working out, because it's a tough one.
Maybe negotiations, because it will be negotiating between yourself and the weights.
Yeah, okay, that's a good one. One thing I've been thinking around is, where does it stop? Like, I come to AAA either directly or through Borderless, and is that the end? Is that where it stops? Or
No.
are there, like, what are the other benefits of joining taking the course, for example?
Yeah. So it doesn't stop at the certificate level, right? You do get to join the, wider community. As I mentioned, we have over 900 alumni across the continent and beyond. You do get to enjoy perks such as, we access to the Africa the Big Deal database, where you get annual access for free for a full year, to be able to really review deals, really up-to-date deals that you can decide to go into. And most importantly, you also get to participate with your fellow alumni in engagements such as deal days, and join the alumni collective on Borderless, where we do share deals. It's very recent, but we do share deals on there, and alumni are able to review once you join the alumni collective, and also invest directly via the platform, right? And the other cool thing is, because of the partnership we have with Borderless, you can also create your own collective on the platform, and receive the required support on how to go about it. So it goes far beyond, you also have access to numerous angel networks across the continent. I think as at now there are 7576 by the last ABAN report. So you get to get all that access to the angel networks, and also other SOs in the ecosystem to source for pipeline in case you want to view other deals outside what we've shared.
That's fantastic. I'm very conscious of time, but one thing I want to get a sense check of the audience. There are about 60 people here. If you're learning something from this conversation, just give me thumbs up, or don't give me thumbs down, just thumbs up only. Okay, well, at least, okay, all right. It helps that people are learning something. Fiona, I want to essentially move, like, just give me maybe like 1 or 2 lines on, so we talked about the self-guided, so you don't need a timeline, but you do the cohort one. When is the next one starting? And what can people do to learn more about this next cohort that's coming up?
Right. So we do have cohort 14 that's starting next week. Actually, applications are closing this week. This is a Malawi focused cohort, and is only open to investors or prospective investors who are keen to invest in Malawi. So that's the caveat around this. The next open and self-sponsored cohort will start mid 2027, so that we're able to really get people on board. So we do welcome you all for the info session that's happening on Wednesday to learn more about the Malawi cohort, and how you can get involved. Fun fact is, there isn't an investment cap with this one, so you can invest anywhere between $1,000 to over $50,000 in the syndicate, should you wish to or feel spirited to do so.
That's good to know. So for folks who are interested in investing in Malawi, well, you know what to do. Wow, okay, it's already 27 minutes. I'll go into the relationship between Borderless and AAA Academy. Again, we've known each other for a while. One thing I wanted to highlight is we're essentially collaborating with AAA Academy, because while we've built the technology, we quickly realized that education is one of the things that's missing. So we've essentially integrated with the AAA Academy to make sure that if you come to the platform and you don't know what you're doing, at least you can go get the learnings and then come back to effectively use the platform properly. The other thing that we're talking about with Fiona at a very high level is how can we essentially go beyond this partnership and do expect other things like co-created courses, because right now there's training for angels, but we believe that there's other things that we can work together with the African Angel Academy. So we will be doing a lot more together, and they will essentially be serving as the anchor, because like AAA is very good at education piece. We're really good at the technology piece, but when we bring it all together, I think it would become something very powerful. Can we talk about angel investing itself in Africa? There's, misconceptions, there are myths about deploying capital on the continent. Can we start with maybe the basic, Fiona? Let's talk about the check sizes. Like what have you seen? Like what are people deploying? And is it as scary as it sounds?
It can be, but it's not as scary as it sounds. So what we've seen in the difference between what's happening in sub-Saharan Africa and other, countries or regions across the world is that on the continent, you're able to start a much smaller, check sizes from anywhere between, as I mentioned earlier, $1,000, and really go up to even $50,000, or if you're syndicated, up to even $250,000 and more. But what we've seen also, in other markets is that the ticket sizes start much earlier. Much higher, and that makes it quite difficult for angel investors, especially those from the continent, to start angel investing. It really locks out quite a group of people, and the fact that we're able to do that on the continent makes it that much more encouraging to be able to venture in, look at the alternative types of ventures, down to the traditional businesses, the boring businesses that are available here.
Fantastic. I wanted to talk about the deal types that we've seen and are seeing across the continent. Historically, it's been a lot of equity safe type of deals, but over the past 18 months, I'm actually seeing non-equity deals. I'm seeing a lot of cash generating deals and deals across agri, mobility and climate. The reason why I think these deals are popping up is because it's taking much longer to see exits across the continent. But also on the other side, there are a lot of startups, at least, or companies, the ones that we're coming across, they need capital, but different types of capital. For example, we're seeing a lot of companies that need working capital, or they need capex capital, and it's calling for a different type of financing. And when you look, at least across the big four, like Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt, interest rates are still very high. And what that means is angel investors are actually playing a different role when it comes to deploying capital in early stage companies. For example, like I saw a deal recently where bank is charging 50% interest, which for many companies just doesn't make sense. And angel investors are stepping in where they're still charging interest, but it's much lower than what the bank is charging. But it's still it's much higher than what you'd make if you are, in the sake of my argument, the UK or the US. So we're seeing different types of deals that are popping up around the continent. I don't know if anybody saw the Spiral raised like quite a large amount of money, and a lot of that money is actually not going into the company, it's going into the assets that Spiral has. I want to also talk about currency and local currency on across the continent. A lot of the deals that we've seen historically have been denominated in USD, mostly because a lot of the companies are registered in Delaware, which actually de-risks investors. Company raises money in USD and you invest in USD. However, if a company is raising money in USD but earning local currency, then there is some disparity, and that can actually cause a lot of clash when it comes to returns. And for folks who've been around for a while, and if you paid attention to what has happened in Kenya, but also in Nigeria, there was a huge currency depreciation. And sadly, we've seen a lot of companies go down because of that. However, there's been a rise of local currency deals, not necessarily equity, but more some debt or quasi-debt deals. And that is really good for local investors. But when you're coming from the diaspora, where you invest in Euro, GBP, or USD, then you also have to kind of think around that FX piece. Right. We just passed the half hour, and I saw one hand go up, which is Zibu. Zibu, I'm guessing you have a question. Are you okay with holding to that question till the end, please?
I'm happy to wait. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, so, oh yeah, so please drop the questions in here. Fiona, so we talked about check sizes, we talked about deal types, exits kind of went into the deal types, we talked about currency. What else did we want to maybe touch on? And maybe to close it up before we bring it over, we pass it over to the angels that have taken the course. Can we briefly talk about why do we need more angel investors across Africa?
The key thing is, I think if you refer back to the financing gap that's there within the continent, you're looking at there being roughly over $194 billion a year, which is around 7% of the continent's GDP that is, put in early stage financing, and that's the major gap. We're seeing that gap continuously increase, and as Africans in the continent and in the diaspora, we can't keep crying wolf, right? We can't keep speaking the same, discussion around there being a financing gap, there not being enough DFI capital coming in to support ventures. We have to take that step forward to be able to fund innovation and, on the continent. And Africa is quite rich in terms of resources, right? And if you also look within the diaspora, a lot of Africans in the diaspora, which is usually the natural source of capital, you're seeing there being, quite a lot of, remittances coming back home, mostly into supporting families, etc., and there being a need to invest and build some of the infrastructures on the continent. I'll give one example from our recent showcase for the Malawi cohort, and one of the attendees, who is Malawian based in the US, mentioned that one of the key things that struck them is that to date, Malawi does not have a simple cinema for them to be able to catch a movie. So when we were all watching Wakanda, a lot of them had to fly over to Zambia to be able to watch it. And those are some of the key gaps that are there, right? Looking at franchises such as KFC, I'm sure every one of us here is able to just walk quickly to a location and find a KFC anywhere, but that's not the case. You'd have to go a town over. So you're looking at there's a need for more infrastructure, more investments to support ventures that are filling in these gaps. And that's why the continent needs to mobilize more angel investors before any deal goes to the VCs, the PEs. We are the ones who believe in them first and put in the risk. So we need to be able to be courageous, continue being courageous enough to ensure that the ventures are able to scale and receive the additional funding they require to be able to scale.
That's fantastic. There's so many questions I want to ask, but I'm conscious that we have a couple of angels who went through the past cohorts that we've invited here to share their experiences. I've seen questions in the comments. Please just give us some time and we'll get to them. Before I move over to Anthony, who will be joining us first, I wanted to make sure that, again, the disclaimer should have come at the start. And while we didn't give any investment advice or told you to invest in this and that, and the focus has been on education, I want to highlight that angel investment is extremely risky and you may lose all the capital that you invest. And again, anything that we say here is not investment advice, etc. And yeah, so the risks of angel investment are very high. And the whole point of, again, we want you to de-risk yourself with the education so that you know exactly what you're walking into and you have the right parameters as you're assessing deals and you're talking to founders, etc. It does not make companies any less risky, but at least you're going in there with enough information to make the right decisions. All right, Fiona, you and I are going to take a quick pause. And I would like to invite Anthony William Catt on this call. I saw him there and he's quite pressed for time. So Anthony, if you're here, can you please come on?
I can. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Fiona. Nice to connect with everybody. Apologies, yeah, I'm between the last call and I have to head out for something. So I only got about 5 minutes. Joe, do you want me to share some of my insights? I know Fiona have already talked about it, and this is anything particular you'd like me to cover?
Yes. So, I think we sent you some questions via email, but again, if you can talk about before the course, what were your investment like? I know you work around a lot of across the continent. Your experience, what did you learn, and then what happened post taking the course?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So forgive me, I might not have seen the questions, but hello to everybody. My name's Anthony and Catt. I'm the founder of Ventures 54, and we're an ecosystem building advisory firm, largely focused on the UK-Africa corridor. So we work a lot with the public and private sector intersection. And prior to that, I was at Google for startups in their kind of investor relations side of things. But been working in the UK-Africa corridor for about a decade. And I had the great privilege of being on the second African Angel Academy cohort, I think in 2020. I think the biggest takeaway from me from the course was really the people I met, and I think this is the crux of angel investing for me. So I think my couple minutes I have here, I'm going to talk to the power of the collective rather than the individual, and for me was understanding very quickly within the cohort the quality of the people around me, different backgrounds from industry to some being already investors, others not being investors, and realizing that was a huge group of people to lean on for their expertise when it came to sourcing deals and doing deals, but collectively analyzing those deals and bringing your capital and pulling it together. And so I think for me, the biggest takeaways from that was really understanding who the individuals were throughout that program and picking up on the specific elements and modules where it related to other people. And the big thing for me, I'd say, is as you come away from the program, whether it's tapping into your existing cohort or looking at the alumni. I mean, Fiona, how many alumni are there now?
900.
We're now at 900 plus.
900. Wow. Okay. So even I'm not tapping into the alumni as much as I should be. But I mean, you've got in that alumni now some of the top VCs who weren't VCs at the time come through the program. So some really quality people. So for me, I would say the first thing I would be doing, and this is my own experience, was don't necessarily build your thesis first, borrow somebody's process first. So find an angel investor in your network, somebody who's very active, well-known. It could somebody be already in this course or alumni, and actually go in with them on a deal. It almost doesn't matter what the thesis is at the time. It's more about understanding the process, getting into the weeds of looking at a deal, how to tell the difference between gut feel and actual analysis, and learning the ways to kind of build that structure and process. And that should already help you build your own thesis anyway. But I found that going in with somebody already experienced and following them would made a night and day difference how I rethought and reshaped my way in thinking about angel investing. So taking that knowledge from the academy, finding somebody who's already seasoned in that and applying it whilst you're kind of following them in was like the most invaluable thing I did, was get that process for my thesis. And then kind of by extension, I think the big thing is I've never done a solo angel check. I've only ever done it as part of a collective, as part of a syndicate. HoaQ's actually one of the first angel syndicates I was involved in. I was involved in several others, and I found that's the most effective way for me to invest. But I think, again, it's the quality of the people. I'll give another example of a really good one in South Africa I'm part of called Summit. And the amazing thing about that, beyond the quality deals that are brought to the table, is the forum we have with the other investors, the quality of the talent in that group, analyzing deals, scrutinizing deals, creating discourse. You know that everybody in there is seasoned in whatever they do. And ultimately, it's driving far better insights into the deals that we should be investing in collectively. But then it leads to the third part, which is always about where you can create the strategic value. So whether it's you as an individual, as a collective, if you can create strategic value for your portfolio, it's super important, but that doesn't often happen on an individual basis in the early days. It comes from a collective syndicated power. So for me, I think the big learning takeaways were understanding the quality of the people in the academy, which it draws in a really high quality, and probably now looking at who were those first 1 to 100 and where they are in their careers in industry and the amount of deals they've potentially done. I mean, I've done a lot more since I first started the academy. So I think that for me would be who here has similar thoughts, experience, or areas of focus. How do you potentially start looking at deals together? Or who in the alumni has already built really good syndicates that you can tap into and learn and follow? Because the only way you really learn how to invest is by doing it. The academy will give you the baseline knowledge, but you need to get yourself into the weeds of a deal. And the best way to do that is to follow someone who's already done it, or go into a syndicate. And I still do that to this day, just on a higher volume than I had done before. And always an icing on the cake is really nice is if you do get to look at some international global deals that maybe aren't necessarily just Africa-centric. I'd like to see more capital go to the continent, but you can learn a lot by looking at other markets and jurisdictions and seeing the type of deals. So even if you join a syndicate for North America or Europe, maybe not doing a deal, but just listening to the kind of deals that are in there, the analysis that's being done, how they're thinking about things, volumes of capital, it might bring learnings back into the actual deals you do on the continent as well. So I think the power of those networks and syndicates is really where you should be leaning on, and find that one person now that you can follow on that first deal to build that process and then shape your thesis once you've got the underlying process. So yeah, that's the short time I have, Joe and Fiona. So I can't stand any longer. I have to drop off now, but I hope that has given some insights. And I put my LinkedIn in the chat below, so I'm always happy to chat with people further about anything.
Fantastic, Anthony. Thank you so much. And that was straight to the point, but also with a lot of information. So thank you. I'll see you soon. Hopefully it's in Cape Town.
See you very soon, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Anthony. And I hope you all found that useful. As an investor, I also found that useful because I think there's just a lot of things that you can learn. And yeah, Anthony is one of those people that it's definitely worth following because he's very well plugged into the ecosystem. Bunmi, I saw you were nodding your head quite a lot. So I think it only makes sense that I invite you over because I believe that you're part of a more recent cohort, which is, I think it'll give like your experience will really help people who are thinking about it because it's so recent. So it's going to be the same questions, Bunmi. So like before the course, and then your experience throughout the course, and what has happened since you joined the course. So please come on, Bunmi.
Yes. Hi, everyone. It's great to just kind of hear what Joe has said, what Ant has said, also Fiona. And I would say, especially, for me, I was coming into this with a different background and different perspective. So for me, I've been in nonprofits for most of my career. I do have, that background in corporate, but a lot has been kind of focused around nonprofits. So I really had been investing kind of through a philanthropic lens. Yeah, but what I really wanted to do, especially being first generation Nigerian American, I really wanted to see how I could invest in Africa, but I didn't really see investors that looked like me in that field. So as I was, really just kind of like looking around, there was actually an opportunity once where I wanted to invest. I was really close, and for whatever reason, this was just before the pandemic, I had cold feet and I did not do that. And it was for an investment opportunity that since then had kind of blown up of like, they're doing great, all of that. And it really was something that I believed in. It was also a woman founder, all of that. And that was when I really knew that I needed to kind of be in a space of folks that were already doing this. So I could have that confidence, and then I can also have that support system. So it really kind of gets into what has already been said of that idea of community, because the community encourages you to be able to do that. So somehow, you know, I'm on LinkedIn a lot, connected with different people. I learned about the Angel Academy. I was part of Cohort 12 and said, you know what, I'm going to learn about it. I'm going to take this course. And it was a great master class, really, of anyone where if you're kind of coming in and you're thinking, I know nothing about investing, this is really an opportunity to be able to just get into the weeds of it. So I'll be honest, it's like, do I remember every single thing? I'm not a finance person, so I don't remember every single thing. But what is amazing is that you have a reference point. And so like Fiona said, where you have access to all these courses, I can always go back and refer to it and refresh if I needed to. But what it gave me was just that opportunity to start thinking about, oh, so this is what due diligence looks like. This is what a term sheet looks like. Oh, being able to kind of just hear from founders and others who started their investment journey as well. And I would say those interviews were really the selling point for me. That is where really I, heard Joe kind of the first time he did an interview, and that kind of got me tweaked my intrigue around HoaQ. And I was like, okay, I need to join that club. And then I heard, from other people saying HoaQ's the place to be. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to join. I'll be a member. But it was also where, for me, I've always been a supporter and investor in women and girls' issues. And seeing two folks, women investors who are kind of coming in and talking about the need for that. So Yami Carey was another person who started, and she's president of ABAN, but she started Rising Tide Africa. And I was like, that's where I want to be. That is exactly the space that I want to. So those were kind of my two key places where I said, if I'm going to do this, and it kept on coming time and time again, the interviews from angel investors where they were like, don't do this alone. You want to start off being with the syndicate because that's where you will learn and you'll grow. And for many of these people, especially, they start their own syndicates, but they started off actually being part of a collective. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to do that, and also inspired me to say, maybe I'll start my own syndicate sometime. But it really is something where it's like, okay, if I'm going to do this, let me do this right. Let me learn from those who are doing it and then going through the weeds. And then the reality is that, and this has been said before, 1,000 USD, that's all I need to start. It made that actionable for me to be able to say, yes, I can do this. Because for being in the US especially, so many of these opportunities to invest are just so high, kind of dollar-wise, that it just doesn't feel attainable, for people like us, especially who are part of the diaspora. And so the things that I would, really, I'm echoing what a lot of people have said, is that one, I would say you want to learn. So being able to join a syndicate, being able to join a collective where they're already doing that work is a great way to do that. And I would say that, two, it's like, if you are kind of coming into the space and you're like, I really don't know anything, but I want to be involved in and want to start doing this, taking the Angel Academy course is a great starting point to be able to do that. Because even if even regardless of anything, what you're going to come out of it is knowing who the people are that you want to connect with and be a part of when it comes to the community that you want to build. And I would say now that where I'm at right now is I came in kind of thinking one thing, and I'm learning with Rising Tide Africa as well, just in terms of being able to continue to, learn, because there's a lot of learning that we're doing. But what I would say is kind of the biggest thing is that I'm starting to develop what my investment thesis is. And so one of the things I really even got from that course is thinking beyond just tech. Like, I know especially fintech is like that sexy thing that everyone wants to jump in and you make a ton. But really what's going to build Africa is that those industries where we're actually the infrastructure and all of that. And I want to be a part of those industries that are really going to build us, as a continent.
Bunmi, I feel like I should take this section and just plaster it across every social media we have, because this is true gospel of the work that we really, really believe in. But you coming in and just giving this feedback is extremely, extremely useful. I also like to add that Bunmi is a HoaQ member. I've never seen her, but I know her email address. So it's really, really good to put a face to a name. Bunmi, do you want to talk about Rwanda, or should we keep that just in case somebody here might be able to help you?
Yeah. And I love that you're bringing, and that's kind of the great thing too about communities, because I'm even also part of the Diaspora House, like collective of doing that. So for me, I'm in the US, but I really want, my dream, my goal is to kind of be regional. So kind of think about like the US but also think of the continent as well as like spaces that I want to be in. But I also want to learn from the different countries that are within the region. So I'm just kind of putting out there, I would love to kind of spend a month in Rwanda, learning kind of just around the business. And so that's like me putting it out there of any kind of recommendations. Who should I kind of connect to? Who should I talk to be able to learn, more about that?
Fantastic. And Bunmi, feel free to drop your LinkedIn in the comments for people to follow, and you can connect with them. Last but not least, I have Nzube Ufodike, who is a great friend of mine. We actually saw each other last week, but there's something very special about Nzube, is because we actually met a long time ago, way before I moved to London. And Nzube he shared a lot of deals, and one companies that we invested in is doing really well. They raised the massive Series A couple of years ago, a company's worth over 100 million. So, and Nzube is also a trustee at the Africa Center, and I hope that he can talk about this at the end. But Nzube, thank you so much for making time for us. I know you're a very, very, very busy guy, but you've been here for the whole hour, so I really appreciate it. You're more of a seasoned investor. You've done this, like you've deployed capital, you've raised a lot of money. But also, I found out that you're a part of African Angel Academy. So I was like, why isn't Nzube part of this? Nzube should be teaching these classes. Anyway, Nzube, thank you so much. And same question applies to you. Like, why did you take the course? And then what happened after? So over to you.
Thank you for the kind introduction. Can you all hear me? Just testing, the audio's good. Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, where do I go from there? So to summarize, yes, you've seen the bio. I've been investing for a while. Before I started the course, I was actually an investment manager at a corporate venture capital here in the UK, and I had about 300 companies in my portfolio, and the valuation was around 1.5 billion. So I come from a finance background. Yes, I'd worked with fixed income before that, and before moving on to venture capital, corporate VC, as I mentioned. But when I enrolled for the course back in 2021, I thought I was in Cohort 2, but it seems if Anthony was in Cohort 2, I might have been in Cohort 3. Anyway, 2021 was when I joined the course. COVID was tapering off. I did it because I wanted to network, right? It wasn't because of the course content as such. I felt that if there's a good way to meet more people that are just as passionate about investing, this would be the best way. So a friend had brought the program to my attention. And what's funny, the side story, he applied, I applied, he didn't get in. And then I had to, I wrote, they gave me a space and I wrote to the organizers and I said, look, really sorry, this might be awkward, but can my friend get in? Because he told me about this and he's an angel investor. We've co-invested in deals here in the UK. And thankfully, they were kind enough to listen to the arguments and they invited them to join the cohort. Because cohort based learning, I do advocate for that because from a networking perspective, as I mentioned, which is my primary objective, it was phenomenal getting to connect with others in various stages of their journey. So it was interesting. I'll say maybe 75% of the folks didn't have angel investing experience, and 25% of us had done at least one or two deals, and maybe about 5% had done multiple deals, over 3 deals. So it was interesting in the classes when conversations would take place, when we'll push back on some of the things coming at it from an experience perspective as opposed to academic. For me, the academic was really important. So even though I'd had that experience angel investing for a while, and if we go back to basic definitions, angel investing, you're putting a check into a company for a non-controlling stake in the entity, and then you're also going to support them through their growth, right? I probably cut my first check maybe 2009 or 2010. It was for a company that I was advising, and they're going through a financial wobble. They had several fees that were due. They were worried the servers are shut down. So I wrote them a check. I had already some exposure with respect to equity, and I got a few more basis points based on the check that I cut. But the company went down. That rule number one: don't invest in distress. It's not the best when investing in angel or early stage. You really want a company that is in distress. So I learned that the hard way. It's a small check, maybe a couple of £100 or something. But I've done occasional investments throughout. Anyway, fast forward to the course itself. I love the legal because it gave a lot more framework and structure. I enjoyed the sessions that we got to discuss amongst ourselves. Currently, my exposure is mostly in the UK. I have about 10 companies here, but 3 that I've invested in the continent. Someone mentioned earlier, exits on the continent is challenging. I think exits around the world are challenging. The UK is not exempt from companies that are hard to get secondaries or exits from. And what I currently do now is kind of fitting a little away from angel. I still, I will check last year. For one of my portfolio companies, I was just supporting them in Lagos, actually. But I'm moving more away from that. I do have an angel syndicate. I used to be part of a few angel networks, but now I'm more looking at businesses, and I'm looking to jump back into the entrepreneur side in the coming year or two. So watch this space. And last thing I'll say is, the fantastic thing about the network is like it's a gift that keeps giving. I didn't realize Anthony was part of the network, right? And even cohort 1 or cohort 2, another old friend of mine, Bitter, he's part of the network. So there's so much you can gain by leaning into the networks that exist from AAA.
What can I say, Nzube? That was fantastic. Thank you so much. And feel free to drop your LinkedIn for folks who want to connect with you. Nzube, I know you are you're a trustee of the Africa Center, and the Africa Center currently has challenges ongoing. Do you want to talk about it and maybe share the link to the GoFundMe just in case anybody here is interested?
Absolutely. I'm not so good at multitasking. If you don't mind, Joe, just dropping my LinkedIn and the GoFundMe in the bio, that would be super helpful. But to summarize, Africa Center Charity has been around for about 65 years here in the UK. In London, it's helped with championing and advocating for Africa and its diaspora. Oh, thank you. Oh my God, thank you. This is heartwarming. And we're going through a financial challenge. Like most cultural institutions, our funding pots that we tend to go for, grants, foundations, etc., they're shrinking. Our operational costs have kind of remained static, but what we've been able to raise through fundraising has not grown to cover that. So we've had a deficit for a few years, and we've been eating into our reserves. So right now unfortunately, we have to close down the main building due to financial pressures, whilst we're trying to fundraise. So this GoFundMe will help us to reopen the space. We've had legends come through the Africa Center, but you can find out more when you read on our page as well as the GoFundMe link. Thank you so much, Joe. And also to Fiona for supporting and showing solidarity in this moment of crisis. Anthony as well, he did lean in with his network. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Nzube. And one of the works that I've been supporting with in my spare time is essentially help look at the numbers of the Africa Center and how we can hopefully help change course of this fantastic building and community that we have here in London. All right, Anthony, Anthony Nzube, thank you so much. This has been fantastic. Right. Conscious that this was supposed to finish on the hour, it's not 2 minutes. Is it okay if we maybe just address the questions in the comments and then we can call it a day? Just feel free to give me thumbs up because I don't want to hold you hostage here. All right, fantastic. All right, I'm just going to go back to the start. There's been a lot of questions in the comments. Zibu, you've had your hand up. Do you want to maybe raise your question? If it's already been answered, that's fine. But if you want to call in, then we'll try to answer it as quickly as possible.
So I actually typed my question in the comments, so I'm happy to go there. I didn't realize that my hand was still up. I'm sorry. I'll take it down. But I was really interested in Southern Africa because I actually thought that the question that you had asked when you were speaking with Fiona earlier was about Southern Africa, and she answered Sub-Saharan Africa, which is an entirely different region altogether. And I'm from Zimbabwe, so I'm Southern African. I'm interested to know what's going on there, particularly interested in Zambia, Zimbabwe. But I also want to know what's happening with Lusophone Africa because so I've done a lot of work in Portuguese-speaking Africa, and I really feel like they're treated like they're the stepchild. They get looked over all the time. Nobody talks about them. I'm in Dakar right now, and I'm working. I've worked in Dakar. I've lived in Dakar. There's actually quite a lot happening in Francophone Africa, but when I look to Lusophone Africa, I'm like, goodness gracious, what is going on? So yes, those are my questions.
I can speak from the collective syndicate standpoint. So in Zambia, there is ZBAN, and I know the founders really well. There's also Bongo Hive, which is a collective. I know a guy in Angola who recently moved back. I'm just trying to remember his name, and again, trying to get things going. But I tend to look, this is me personally, I tend to look at things from a collective perspective. In Botswana, we have the Botswana Angel Network, who is part of the ABAN group, which I see on the board there. So I speak to them regularly, although there isn't as much, call it deals activity, because a lot of these countries are some of them are small, or angel investing or technology companies are another thing that is quite popular. When you look at Zambia, for example, Zambia mining is fantastic there. And one thing, I had a conversation with one of my friends from Zambia back in July, and the conversation is around how do we fund the industries around the mining space. So there are activities depending on where you're looking, and I think when we look at angel investing, it's always been from a technology angle, but I think across Africa we have to essentially reimagine what angel investing look like, and it doesn't always have to be technology. So there are so many things happening. Like right now we have a deal across electric vehicles in Nigeria, which is not technology, but it's assets that move the continent, right? So big. I'm not sure if you've spoken to Mariam in DNA of the Car Network Angel.
Yeah. No, so I know her because I actually was with IFC before, and that's where she came from. So yeah.
There's stuff happening, but maybe not at the scale at which it's happening in Kenya, Egypt, Nigeria, or South Africa. Yeah, I think we can actually be a separate conversation. I do have a couple of people within the region. So one of my friends who's Canadian, Botswana, and he runs a small network. So would love to see how we can bring them and have a conversation, because there's, I was in Botswana earlier this year, and I was able to, I think I've met about 20 startups. So there is stuff happening. I haven't been to Zambia. I've seen 1 or 2 deals in Botswana, in Zimbabwe, but again, maybe not a lot this year. Not sure if I answered the question.
Yes, and you know what? You answered it adequately for the moment. Thank you very much.
All right, I
I mean,
love to.
this would need to be a conversation offline for me to ask follow-up questions. So I'm happy. I'll leave it at this point. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Zibu. Yeah, I love to find time to connect online and we can continue with that. Adam had a question, which is what's the plan for angel investors to make deals for businesses building solution in Africa with incentives, e.g. SEIS, EIS, which required investment to go into businesses based in the UK. Okay, so my Borderless or the underlying company of Borderless is SEIS, EIS because we're registered in the UK, our business is in the UK. Africa is such a big place, 55 states, 54 countries, and different regulations. As far as I know, some countries are working on incentives for investors. But when you look at the complexity and the dynamics of investing in Africa, it's not very straightforward. For example, a lot of companies that you invest in are actually Delaware incorporated. So sometimes the reliefs, even if they're there, doesn't really benefit some of the companies. I have interacted with a lot of UK companies, UK registered companies that are doing business across Africa. And these companies offer EIS, SEIS. And again, sounds like you're based in the UK, so they're not that hard to find. Although I feel like there's a pocket for a syndicate that is specific to companies that are doing business in Africa but have SEIS. Unfortunately, I don't have bandwidth to run any more syndicates. So if anybody wants to do it, we have the technology to enable you to do that. Adam, I hope I answered your question.
Wait, quick one, follow up, Joe, if you don't mind. So are you saying that means that if, let's say, the company is based in UK and then there's this incentive for SEIS, even through you can provide a means to make this deal happen if investors want to, let's say, put money into the business that's doing business in Africa? Is that the clarification?
As long as the company has, there is, I can't think of the name. There is a document you need to get from the HMRC. As long as the company has that, we can facilitate. I wrote a piece on this.
Okay.
So I did a session earlier this year on SEIS and EIS for companies that are doing business in Africa but are registered in the UK.
Okay.
Happy to share with you if it'll be useful.
Yeah,
But
please do.
The certificate, I can't think of the name now. You're able to you can get the relief because the relief isn't necessarily the form, it's with the founder and the investor.
Okay. Please do share any material that you feel can help me.
All right, I might have to charge you for it, but we can have that discussion offline.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. I have Miriam, who's if it's safer to invest in local currency, isn't it going to be difficult to get investment from the diaspora? How would you usually navigate this? Most businesses would find it difficult to give back returns in foreign currencies, right? Yes, that's the short answer. Yes, Miriam, except the work that we're doing at Borderless is essentially build the rails to make it easier for investors to invest easily across the continent, but also get their money back. We have spent a lot. It's very, very difficult, in short, to mobilize local capital, especially when you're in the diaspora. So let's say you're in the UK, you're investing in a company in Tanzania, you're essentially taking a GBP, converting it to TZ shillings, and when the money comes back, you essentially you get TZ shillings, convert it back to GBP and get it. The FX exposure, it's huge. It's quite big in this space, and the chances of you losing some money, if you get the money back, the odds are not zero. However, one thing that I'm seeing across the continent is there's a lot of stability that's coming up when you look at like African currencies. The Kenyan shilling has been quite stable. NGN is getting stronger. ZAR is getting stronger. So at the time of this recording, there has been a lot of efforts by African government to provide some sort of stability. But again, none of this is investment advice. This is my experience doing deals across the continent. And yeah, there is a lot of risks challenges, etc. When you look at, ZOF or ZAF areas, which is, African countries that use the CFA, and you're investing in either Euro or USD or GBP, the ZAF is pegged to the Euro. What that means is the volatility is actually much, much thinner, not as crazy as other currencies. And we're seeing a lot of deals being denominated in Euro, in the likes of Ivory Coast, Senegal, and the likes. So for anybody who wants to invest in local currency, please do have a look at these regions, Senegal, Francophone, CFA regions. Zibu, did you want to add something? Because, if you're at the IFC, you might have a point on an opinion on this.
Not at the moment. Thank you.
All right, cool. Fiona, I think London wanted the link to the cohort. When you can, please share it. Zibo, I think I've already answered your question. You have a question on, so as a co-founder of a licensed pharmaceutical diagnostics and medical device distribution company in West Africa, I'd be interested in understanding what factors lead angel investors to seriously consider healthcare supply chain businesses beyond revenue, investment readiness indicators, confidence in companies with regulatory licenses, market access capabilities, and distribution infrastructure. I have not invested in many pharmaceutical logistics companies, so I don't have an answer. But if anybody has an answer on the call, please feel free to unmute, and hopefully this Dr. Chigozie.
I think Zibo's hand is up, please. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening, Doctor. I think Zibu's hand was up for something else. I think she might have a question.
Zibo's hand is no longer up. My apologies to everybody.
Okay, all right. Cool. Yeah. All right. So, sorry, Doctor. I don't think anybody has an answer. Jose Maria has a question, which is looking 5-10 years ahead, what do you want to see more of in the African ecosystem that is currently missing, and how can the next generation contribute beyond providing capital, especially as a syndicate? I welcome other opinions here, but as an investor, I just want to make money. Like impact, of course, I care about it. I think it really matters. But I think making money first really matters. Because if you make money, you can reinvest. Personally, every single money I've made in angel investing, I've always reinvested. I've actually never taken any money out. And I've been investing since 2026. And I think if we want the pie to be bigger, there has to be a mechanism where we make money and then we reinvest. So that's the first thing. The second thing before I give the mic to Nzube is I think it's really important that we start looking at the industries that actually work across the continent. Mobility is finally getting its flowers, now it's sort of disguised as climate. And when you go across Africa, everybody's on the 2-wheeler, 3-wheeler, 4-wheeler. And I think there is a world where we can invest more into this space. But I think today the right mechanism are not there to enable that. And I talked about the Zambia/mining. Like mining, it's such a big industry across Africa. And I don't know why we have not figured out how to deploy more capital around the industry. So yes, angel investing in technology companies are cool, but there are other industries across Africa that are much, much bigger than technology companies. And I think we need to start looking at them. So transport, logistics, mining are those that's like the service industry is quite big. And because AI is moving so quickly, I think there's so much more that we can do in terms of deploying capital across other classes that might not necessarily be technology companies. Nzube, over to you.
Sure. Just to add to this one, just make sure I understood the question properly. Is it around adding value and how to add value to portfolio companies, or where to find value?
I think, like, the question is, what do you want to see more of in the African ecosystem beyond deploying capital?
Understood. Okay, so beyond deploying capital, I would say, do I see that it's cash flux, right? And I say to every angel investor that's starting, look, you want to do more than just put capital. Otherwise, you might as well go to the casino and put it all on red or black, right? When you're an angel investor, there has to be that value addition, in my view, and I think you learned that as well from the course. You need to think about where can you use your network, your access, your capacity to give that portfolio company an unfair advantage, to short circuit some of the learning. So thinking about how they can get through to whatever it is they need to get to the next stage of their growth. And from that perspective, it's a lot more than just capital and moving away. I agree with the point around the other sectors. In Nigeria, I'm invested in an EV company, also in the oil and gas space. When you think about in my view, in many African countries, we think more about the infrastructure-based solutions because there's so much of an infrastructure deficit. And given there's so much opportunity there, anyone that's trying to solve those problems, those are more kind of needs than kind of want. The painkillers versus the multivitamins, I like to say. So yeah, adding value as an angel investor is key in order to make sure that you reduce risk and improve the chances of you getting return. Slightly different from Joe in the sense that I also look at partial exits. So I learned about this when I was working in investment management for a large CVC. The partial exit. So usually at every liquidity event, I advise angel investors to take away something between 20 to 33% of your capital invested, from the pool. So let's say you put £30. Next liquidity event, depending on the mechanics, you should take out between £7 and £10. That's just pure discipline, right? The £7 to £10 hopefully is no longer £7 to £10, right? Because the 30 would have gone up by 10 times. So that £7 to £10 you're taking out is actually more 70 to £100. Remember, you only put £30 to begin with. So at each liquidity event, if you continue to do that, you have a return on. That's how I'm able to survive as an angel, right? Because I've been a bit more disciplined around taking some money off the table, not because I don't believe or don't back the founder, but just because I'm managing my own little money and I can't afford to be fully exposed all the time. So I've said quite a few things beyond the question itself, but I'll pause there.
No, that's more than enough. And if anybody else has insights, please feel free to share. Other than that, I think that's it. Fiona, do you have any parting words before we close it and go enjoy our evening? Fiona, are you with us?
Yes, sure thing, Joe. I think there's one quote that I would really love to share, and I think would be great, parting words for us this evening, and that really is angel investing without a structured way to go about it, or more capital without more capability just means more bad deals, and having the education around it, understanding the mechanics around it, and investing with a community around you is what makes the infrastructure and angel investing fun despite the risk.
That's a fantastic quote. And on that note, we'll call it a day. Thank you all so much. Fiona, thank you for making this happen. Thank you to everybody who dialed in, provided their opinion. If we're not connected, I'm joking, on LinkedIn. Feel free to drop your LinkedIn for folks who are here, connect with each other. And yeah, we'll see you either in the African Digital Academy community on Borderless, or we'll see you at the next event. And super excited to do more together. And yeah, if you want to learn more, we have the QR code for African Digital Academy here. Please just scan it to take the course. You can go through the self-learning or self-paced, or there's the Malawian cohort that's starting next week, but also there'll be future cohorts. So thank you all for making the time. I hope you found this useful. I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I love this. Like, I love this session so much. And yeah, I look forward to doing more and with all of you to build a better Africa for all of us.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.